Welcome to Orchid Time. This is part 2 of my Phalaenopsis collection intro, focusing on my Phalaenopsis Schilleriana. This is the glorious Phalaenopsis Schilleriana, my first and so far only species Phalaenopsis. I've only had this plant for about 5 months. I got it in December from Hauserman's Orchids. And as you can see, it is already in bloom. It started spiking actually within like a week and a half of my bringing it home, because the windowsill where I put it and my house in general are both much colder than the greenhouse it came from. So I got it and it immediately bloomed, which was phenomenal. It has the typical Schilleriana flower with pink petals and sepals and that cute mustache lip. And it is also fragrant. Schilleriana are typically said to have a fragrance of roses, and I would agree with that. This one does smell like roses, but a much more muted rose scent and not a sweet rose scent at all. It smells similar to rosewater to me. And I've noticed that if the plant needs watering, like if it isn't well hydrated, the scent is not as noticeable. My Schilleriana does not fill the room with scent, but if you're near it, you can smell it without having to get your face into the flowers. So that's been really delightful. So I have another plant that also smells like roses, currently in bloom, and that is Paphdillanatii. And it's interesting, they're both rose-scented, but like very different roses, because as we know, roses don't just smell like one thing. So that's kind of cool. They're very different plants from very different parts of the world. They both smell like roses, but still somewhat differently. So that's neat. Phalaenopsis Schilleriana does have mottled leaves, and the mottling is kind of different depending on the variety you have. My variety is TKB, and so it has sort of faint silver striping in like a speckled form. I've seen other people's Schilleriana pictures with much more defined silver stripes, or sometimes all over speckles in silver. So it's kind of neat to see the variation in the species. I got this Schilleriana in a seedling size. So this is its first bloom. It had 3 leaves when I got it, and it immediately grew a 4th leaf and then a flower spike within, well, the leaf grew within a month of my getting it, and the spike began developing like a week and a half after I got it and continued developing for a very long time. I wasn't sure what to expect as far as how long the spike would take to develop. I was told by a fellow Orchid Society member that in general, Phalaenopsis spikes take about 4 months to develop from like when it initially begins growing the spike to when it starts blooming. So mine started in early December. One would expect beginning of bloom to be about in March, and that was right on schedule for the Schilleriana. It began blooming, I think, in early to mid-March, and was fully in bloom by early to mid-April, and is now still fully in bloom here at the end of April. So I'm not sure how long Schilleriana flowers normally last. I'm hoping they last a good long time, because I just love this fragrance and I'd like to keep enjoying it as long as possible. Because this plant started spiking immediately after I got it, I haven't repotted it, which I know is terrible. So it is still in So it is still in the original container that it came in, and it seems to be potted entirely in sphagnum moss. From what I have read, Schilleriana prefers to grow in sphagnum, and this moss doesn't seem like terribly super tightly packed, but it's hard to know until you get in there and check. So I will be repotting it as soon as it is finished blooming, probably into a somewhat bigger container. And once again, in sphagnum moss. So far, the care for Schilleriana has been similar to a typical Phalaenopsis. Fairly low light. I have this in a northeast window and it's growing well and blooming well. I'm watering my Phalaenopsis currently in winter about once a week. I feed every other to every third watering with MSU fertilizer for tap water, and I'm using tap water to water it. It's probably not quite humid enough in its area, but I do have it sitting on a humidity tray. These plants are used to very high humidity, and I cannot provide that. And the windowsill it's on doesn't have quite enough space for me to put a humidifier there with it. So that's something to improve in the future for the Schilleriana specifically, although the grocery store no ID Phalaenopsis don't seem to be particularly sensitive to humidity. The Schilleriana leaves are much more, I wouldn't say dainty, but they're thinner. So I'm concerned that it's more sensitive to humidity than your average, highly engineered Phal hybrid. This has been my Phalaenopsis Schilleriana. To see the rest of my Phalaenopsis collection, check out part 1 of my Phal intro, which is linked below. If you'd like to see updates on this plant or on the other orchids in my collection, I invite you to subscribe. Thank you for watching.